Mash Prime has asked, have you done anything sending uh, anything to date? I think that means to date around AI, large language models, and APIs for further processing or creating an outside interface to bypass restrictions of EXO. So, Mash, I guess what I presented earlier speaks to that a little bit, where in the next wee while we can see AI interrogating EXO databases and using the strengths of a large language model with its real world questions, natural language questions, to interrogate not just the EXO database, but other databases as well and present information back.
The EXO API was built for the mobile application and really is extremely strong with sales orders, like very, very highly featured. But there is also a more generic API written for EXO called the Zeno API, and
Yep.
that has a lot more endpoints. Like it has a lot more functional endpoints than the MYOB. So if we were to do, let's say, a Shopify integration, somebody comes to us and says, "Can you integrate Shopify?" I'd go for the Zeno API because assuming I'm going to get payments through and the MYOB API doesn't support payments as an endpoint. You have to basically write to the SQL database directly, create your own custom table and write to it. It's not an endpoint that's out of the box. Whereas with the Zeno API, that endpoint is available. Is that the lines of the question?
I think we've covered the basis, Sam. Obviously, there are other ways of integrating EXO to the outside world. Your EXO support partner will have probably their own preferred method, whether it's through import files or APIs of various descriptions. There are plenty of ways of connecting EXO to the outside world. Obviously, we want to be very security conscious when we do that too.
It's can I integrate to a SQL database? The answer is absolutely 100%. In fact, the issue is locking it down, really. Do you know what I mean? Preventing access to it, but it's the most accessible and supported database around. And APIs aren't necessarily the right way to do a lot of things too. I see the API used when it shouldn't be used. There's no benefit to it, So yeah.
All right, Sam, we better keep pressing on, mate. Okay, so Maya has asked, can ProSpend be used in MYOB EXO? I'll tackle this one for you, Sammy.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Well, if it doesn't, then where I wondered why all my expense claims haven't come through.
No, that's because they're just sitting in my inbox. Yes, absolutely. ProSpend can absolutely be used in MYOB EXO. There's a really good integration that's been built out, and one of the cool things about ProSpend obviously is if you are looking at moving to Acumatica at some future date, far future date, then ProSpend can come with you when you make that transition. So Maya's got another question here. What is the cost for using ProSpend? Look, so Maya, I think we'll probably need to take that one offline. Reach out to your support partner, reach out to your account manager, because it will depend on what your business requirements are, is the costings basically. So yeah, that one's probably better answered by your account manager. Okay, Vernon's asked, is EXO hosted compatible with the software Tomax WMS warehouse management system? Now, so Vernon, I'm not familiar with the Tomax WMS warehouse management system. But if it's a web-based application, then yep, there's no reason why EXO hosted couldn't still be used. If I use the example of Avexo, which is a web-based WMS system, we've got many clients using Avexo through EXO hosted. Sam, have you heard of Tomax?
No, I haven't. No.
So, Vernon, I hope that addresses your question. If you got any follow-up questions, put them back in the chat, and we will we'll address them.
Someone asked, is EXO on the Go ever going to be supported on Android devices? And the answer would be like absolutely not, ever. We'll never go there.
I think unlikely is the appropriate answer. Unlikely.
Well, I'm a realist.
It's worth just commenting back to EXO hosted again that if Android devices were preferred for the mobiles end of things, while EXO on the Go is an Apple-based or iOS-based, go to EXO on the Go, you can get the features on a Google Android operating platform. So yeah, it's still doable, but it would be EXO hosted, wouldn't it?
Yeah, correct.
Very good.
I think so. But yeah, I mean, the EXO on the Go is a native Apple application, like written for iOS.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Vernon said yes, it is cloud-based. So Vernon, we're not familiar with that product, but we are familiar with cloud-based WMS solutions that operate on EXO hosted. So yeah, it should be okay.
We can follow up on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Rudy has asked, we're in the process of implementing Trailed to deal with suppliers' invoices, delivery dockets, and blanket purchase orders. For us, it's very important to have these 3 documents properly checked. Any suggestions and ideas? Rudy, in terms of Trailed, I don't know. I don't implement Trailed, so it's going to be very difficult for me to provide advice on that delivery. So yeah, I think what you're asking us here is that you want to make sure that you've got 3-way matching across all of those processes. Yeah. So we can certainly take that offline and make some inquiries with Trailed themselves. Now, if you're in the process of implementing, I'm sure you're talking with them already, but we can certainly take that up and ask those questions on your behalf, and then have your account manager come back with a suitable response from them. So that's probably the best approach right now. Yeah, we'll just make sure that your concerns are heard.
Yeah, or it could be an extra validation added, and that Trailed inserts the records, and then the validation kicks in afterwards. In which case, it could be the EXO partner that does the additional validation. I understand the process that the inwards goods process of reconciling all of the goods coming in, a blanket purchase order coming in, making sure you got what you asked for, and then secondly, making sure you paid for what you received, or your invoice for what you received. That's the whole inwards goods process, which is manually stepped through. I don't know how far Trailed takes over that process and to do reconciliation, or whether that's EXO should something written in EXO should do that validation, or some automation to cross-check all of those things together.
Sam, I'm going to put another question to you, mate. Is there any way that we can import an Excel spreadsheet into an EXO sales order?
Yeah. There's lots of ways to do it. can't you just paste to grid?
And we're asking you.
Oh, I think you can. Oh, no,
You can't ask the question, Sam.
Well, the first place I'd look is that I'd be dropping it paste to grid.
I think the answer in terms of sales orders is no. You can't paste to grid.
I could I could write a screen to import into a sales order in like an evening.
I thought you were going to say you got the special Sam LR XO version that no one else has got.
No, I could write a framework app to open up an order and inject a spreadsheet into it, like you can do with purchase orders.
Yeah. And look, honestly, that would probably be the best solution as well. There are other ways. I mean, obviously, we can import sales orders into XO, and there's various processes for importing orders into XO. We can inject them in with an API or use a number of different importers to bring them in. So it really depends on the scenario. If it's an Excel spreadsheet that covers multiple sales orders, then importing it through an importer, a tool of some description, or an API is the right option. But if it's just you've just got a bunch of lines and you've got 50 lines on one sales order, and you really can't be keying all of those 50 lines in manually is a time-consuming process, then Sam's suggestion of using framework is a great way to tackle that.
Okay, the best thing I've seen for importing spreadsheets is actually Python scripts. Totally programmable and totally super efficient, as long as the data that's coming in doesn't need excessive validation, like trading spaces on your stock codes, invalid characters in your stock codes, all that stuff that happens when people pump stuff out of Excel straight into invisible characters. That sort of stuff is the danger. So it's how much validation, what's the quality of the data coming in. If you know that data is good quality, like a Python script would be real fast, and it just does it. It's amazingly powerful.
Yeah, very good. A follow-up comment on that. So 200 to 300 line items. So it sounds like one sales order, lots and lots of lines. So yeah, and in that case, it is around that data validation, isn't it? Do all the stock items.
What's the quality of the data that's coming in? Yeah. But honestly, an incredibly powerful, a Python script is just incredibly powerful at dealing with Excel.
Rudy says, thank you, Sam. All right.
I'll have it tomorrow.
What is your suggestion for handling supplier returns to manage the full transaction life cycle of a purchase? Currently, we use negative purchase orders.
I mean, that is the only way to do it. There isn't a returns module into XO, never got commercially developed out. A few people did have one, like a full-blown returns module, which dealt with it nicely, but that was never released to the general market. It was a specialist module written for people who did lots of RMA work, lots of returns and warranty work. But there's no there are some side effects of doing the negatives, average cost effects, that sort of stuff. But there is really only the efficient the only efficient way to do it, other than writing a tool to actually do specifically what they want to do.
So the question's been posed. Could you write a returns module using framework?
Yes, 100%. I even know the design because we've already written it 10 years ago. I don't know how many, there were lots of people who had the RMA module, and it was fully, but it was just that different people wanted it to work in so many different ways. It was hard to write it generically. But yeah, I mean, you could write a simple version to do that and do all the right movements and everything. Could be like a 30-hour job to do. But if multiple people wanted it, it would be,
The challenge with the negative purchase order was always getting the paperwork behind it and capturing the extra information. That was, yeah. So there you go. You've heard it here first, folks. If you want a returns module Sam can write it for you.
Well, we could write it generically, and people just buy. The one thing I didn't explain was framework. The design of a framework is one module, and often people only buy the runners, so they only buy however many licenses they need to run applications concurrently. They don't necessarily they don't necessarily buy the designer. It's only if they want to be able to change things around themselves that you'd want to buy the designer. But it's like writing reports. It's actually quite a skill. It's a programming skill. It's just that it's many layers down from writing hard sort of coded C# or Delphi. It's a lot more. Well, it's a lot more rapid to develop the stuff. Yeah, there's I mean, we developed some framework stuff that is absolutely enormous, like as big as job costing.
Ready for another one, Sam?
What was that?
You ready for another one?
Go. Yeah.
How could a default email address be configured in MYOB EXO to send remittance advice related to creditor payments, customer invoices, and statements?
Well, they're all three different things, three different modules. But I think it was about like 7 or 8 years ago, we moved all of that logic into functions. So just yesterday we were writing a function to say, well, use the email off the statement. So very bespoke. People want it in different ways. So the email address is returned using a SQL function, which you can modify, which can be the default contact. It can be the email address off the, or it can CC, BCC, or CC or whatever. Totally controllable, but totally customizable, really. And it's all the result of the email address comes from the various functions for the invoice and the statement. Yeah, I haven't done anything with the remittance advice. I haven't done anything with that one. So I reserve judgment on that one, but definitely from a debtor's email address, statement email address, all of that stuff is very programmable. It's designed to be soft in the database, returned by a single function which you can modify, and it does get modified a lot. People have all sorts of different things, ways of deciding who should be the first contact, and if it fails. Just the other day we just did one where we added the logic that if the email address wasn't right, it sent the invoice back to account, so it looped back on itself, which is quite a cool way to do it. Like if they get an email from themselves, they know they've got to go and fix that account up. Does that make sense? So that logic which is built into the email sender. So it doesn't matter how they send an email, whether they send the email automatically or whether they send the email through the mail shot, or if the logic is wrong or the account isn't set up correctly, it bounces back and emails back to the accounts department.
And Sam, is it true that you've got a working version of the Graph email API mail sending functionality working on a motor parts database?
I've got it working internally here. Yeah. And I'm just doing on another one, and there's a little bit of complexity with the permissions. You just got to get your IT department to go in, and a lot of people are unfamiliar with that complexity of that Microsoft Azure Graph setup. It's very, very complex, but people are learning it. But that's going to be a little while, I think, before everybody's familiar enough with how to give access to those API components. I'm hoping that that it's the start of a beautiful relationship with Microsoft again, where EXO is actually super aligned with the way Microsoft's going with the Graph API, which handles email, it handles passwords, it handles everything, all in one stop shop.
It's a fantastic step in the right direction. It's
a real chance to realign itself with Microsoft, and she said, we're moving away. Microsoft are getting rid of a MAPI support, which was their standard, but they're deprecating that standard and saying, no, you've got to come to the Graph API because that's integrated to Outlook. It has multi-factor authentication, all of these things. So it's great. We can just get rid of MAPI completely and let's just go holus bolus down that route of the Graph API.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, it needs time to bed in. That's all. But yeah, it's a great way for me to be able to check SMTP to make sure SMTP is sending the emails properly, because previously I couldn't use SMTP to send the error to say, hey, the system stopped.
So if it wasn't working, it wasn't working.
Yeah, it was like, so now having the two,
22.
yeah, you've got a failover system. Yeah.
Nice. No,
Mm.
Rudy's got another question for us. We know you love your job costing module. We have job costing module and we track cost against jobs. Is there any way that EXO can push materials purchased to cost directly without the need of invoicing the job? Invoicing WIP to jobs takes too much time and is an extra manual process.
Oh, you right mouse clicker?
I mean,
well, you can
job
tick a whole
costing
lot
is-
of boxes, right mouse click.
Job costing is a right tool for automation as well. So if you wanted a button to do it, you can write SQL behind that button, which does exactly what you want and moves all the costs, or writes them off, or whatever it needs to do, other than invoicing. I think I see what's going on. They're not invoicing the job. They're actually just acquiring costs, and they're charging maybe a contract fee or something, but they're tracking the costs that are going into that contract fee, and each month they want to move it across as a cost that's been, yeah. So I mean, yeah, they're going in manually to do it, but there's no reason why. If it was us and it was our job costing, which we use heavily, we would just automate the process. We'd write the script and we'd put a button, or we'd write a script and we just get an automation agent to run it as soon as it's saved, or
So yeah, I guess the follow-up question, Rudy, for you would be what's the trigger point? Is it at the point where the goods have been costed in, or is it at the point where the creditor invoice has been processed? In order to trigger that invoicing out of the job. The question, I guess, there are a few questions we would need to work through. It's like, okay, so you've got labor that's going against your jobs as well. You know, if we're automatically just invoicing out the job as soon as all the materials have been received, how do we know when it's all done and dusted?
I suppose what he's saying there is, if you have you've got these projects running and you've got direct purchases, you know that's happened. So you just I want to recognize that cost straight away. So I mean, taking the manual process out of it shouldn't be hard. You could just write a script to do exactly what the job costing does. You can literally trace what happens when you press the button to process it through. Take the code that it's running on the trace and say, well, make that automated.
Yeah.
For purchase type lines, when when it's receipted, it knows that it can just automatically cost those transactions take those across. I suppose it depends if you want it to happen at the end of the month or you want it to happen as you go.
So Rudy, the answer is yes, Sam can.
Yeah. Job costing is absolutely perfect for doing automations.